Dear children, welcome back to Social Studies online class. I am Raji, your Social Studies teacher. Hope you are fine. In the last history class, we discussed the background of how medieval history started. This session, we will start with the history second chapter and it talks about new kings and kingdoms.
Dear children, in this session we would understand how the new kings and kingdoms evolved during this period. Now we will start the simple map. Many new dynasties emerged after the 7th century. So this map shows the major ruling dynasties in different parts of the subcontinent between the 7th and 12th centuries. Gurjara Pratharas, Rashtrakutas, Palas, Cholas and Chahmanas otherwise called Chauhans. These are the important dynasties. Can you identify the present day states over which they exercise control? Gurjara Pratharas in western Uttar Pradesh and northern Madhya Pradesh. Rashtrakutas in central Madhya Pradesh, northern Andhra Pradesh and Karnataka. Palas in Bengal, Cholas in Tamil Nadu and Chauhans in Rajasthan, Delhi, Haryana and Punjab. Then we are going to discuss about the emergence of new dynasties. By the 7th century, there were big landlords or warrior chiefs in different regions of the subcontinent. But kings often acknowledged the landlords as their subordinate or samantas. Who were samantas? Samantas were big landlords or warrior chiefs in different regions of Indian subcontinent. But the samantas were expected to bring gifts for their kings and provide military support. Also, samantas gained power and wealth and they declared themselves to be the title Mahasamanta and Mahamandaleshwara. The meaning of the word is the great lord of a circle or region. What is the meaning of Mahasamanta and Mahamandaleshwara? The great lord of a circle or region. Who were Samantas? Samantas were big landlords or warrior chiefs in different regions of Indian subcontinent. The Rashtrakutas were ruling in the northern Deccan. Initially, Rashtrakutas were the subordinate to the Chalukyas of Karnataka. But in the mid-8th century, the Rashtrakuta chief Dendidurga overthrew his Chalukya overlord and performed a ritual called Hiranyagarbha. The word literally means golden womb or golden egg. The meaning of the word Hiranyagarbha is the golden womb. What is Hiranyagarbha? It signifies a golden pot donated to a Brahmana and also refers to the god Vishnu. The donor performs an archana and utters a mantra praising the Lord Hiranyagarbha, that is Vishnu. This ritual was performed with the help of Brahmanas and it was thought to lead to the rebirth of the sacrificer as a Kshatriya even if he was not one by birth. What is Hiranyagarbha? This ritual was performed with the help of Brahmanas and it was thought to lead to the rebirth of the sacrificer as a Kshatriya even if he was not one by birth. Similarly, the Kadamba Mayura Sharman and the Gurjara Pratihara Harichandra were Brahmins, but who gave up their traditional professions and took to arms. They were successfully establishing kingdoms in Karnataka and Rajasthan. At that time, Varna system existed there. Brahmins were the priests of the temples. Children, we can see this picture, wall relief from Cave 15, Ellora showing Vishnu as Narasimha, half man and half lion. It is the work of the Rashtrakuta period. Next is administration in the kingdoms. How to administrate the kingdoms? Many kings adopted high sounding titles such as Maharajadiraja, Tribhuvana Chakravartin, and so on. What is the meaning of Maharajadiraja? Maharajadiraja means great king or overlord of kings. Tribhuvana Chakravarti means lord of the three worlds. Tribhuvana means three worlds. Resources were obtained from the producers, that is, peasants, cattle keepers, artisans, etc., who were often compelled to surrender part of what they produce. Sometimes these were claimed as rent, that is, due to a lord who asserted that he owned the land. Also, revenue collected from traders. The resources were used to finance the king's establishment for the construction of temples and forts. Once more, resources were used to finance the king's establishment for the construction of temples and forts, and also they were used to fight wars. The functionaries for collecting revenue were generally recruited from influential families, and positions were often hereditary. Next, the most frequently mentioned tax is Vetti, 400 taxes. The inscriptions of the Cholas who ruled in Tamil Nadu refer to more than 400 terms for different kinds of taxes. The most frequently mentioned tax is Vetti, taken not in cash but in the form of forced labor. Vetti, taken not in cash but in the form of forced labor. And Kadamai, or land revenue. Kadamai is otherwise called land revenue. There were also taxes on thatching the house, the use of a ladder to climb palm trees, a cess on succession to family property, etc. Next is Prashastis and land grants. What do you mean by Prashastis? Prashastis contain details that may not be literally true, but they tell us to depict themselves as valiant, victorious warriors. Prashasti is a Sanskrit word. The meaning is in praise of. Prashastis were composed by Brahmins. The important one is the achievements of Nagaphatta. The achievements of Nagaphatta, many rulers described their achievements in Prashastis. One Prashasti written in Sanskrit and found in Gwalior, Madhya Pradesh, describes the exploits of Nagaphatta, a Pratihara king, as follows. The kings of Andhra, Saindava, Vidarbha, and Kalinga fell before him even as he was a prince. He won a victory over Chakrayudha. He defeated the king of Vanga, that's the part of Bengal, Anarta, part of Gujarat, Malava, part of Madhya Pradesh, Kirada, the forest peoples, Turushka, Turks, Vatsa, Matsya, both kingdoms in North India. Kings often rewarded Brahmanas by grants of land. These were recorded on copper plates, which were given to those who received the land. So, let's see, this is a set of copper plates recording a grant of land made by a ruler in the 9th century. It is written partly Sanskrit and partly Tamil. The ring holding the plates together is secured with the royal seal. This is an authentic document. Children, next is part of the Tamil section of a land grant given by the Cholas. We have demarcated the boundaries of the land by making earthen embankments as well as by planting thorny bushes. This is what the land contains: fruit bearing trees water, land, gardens and orchards, trees, wells, open spaces, pasture land, a village, ant hills, platforms, canals, ditches, rivers, silt laden land, tanks, granaries, fish ponds, beehives, and deep lakes. He who receives the land can collect taxes from it. He can collect the taxes imposed by judicial officers as fines. The tax on betel leaves, that on woven cloth as well as on vehicles. He can build large rooms with upper stories made of baked bricks. He can get large and small well dug. He can plant trees and thorny bushes. If necessary, he can get canals constructed for irrigation. He should ensure that water is not wasted and that embankments are built. Unusual for the 12th century was a long Sanskrit poem containing the history of kings who ruled over Kashmir. It was composed by Kalhana. Kalhana used a variety of sources, including inscriptions, documents, eyewitness accounts, and earlier histories, to write his account. But unlike the writers of Prashastis, he was often critical about rulers and their policies. Next, warfare for wealth. We notice that each of these ruling dynasties was based in a specific region. At the same time, they tried to control other areas. Since the days of Harsha, Kanauj was considered the symbol of the sovereignty. Control of Kanauj would also imply control of the upper Gangetic Valley and its rich resources. Next, the tripartite struggle. What is tripartite? That means three parties. A tripartite struggle means a number of powerful empires arose in northern India and Deccan between AD 750 and AD 1000. Out of them, three were of the Rashtrakutas, Gurjara Pratiharas, and the Palas. These three major kingdoms were involved in a long struggle of supremacy to occupy Kanauj. Historians have referred to struggle as the tripartite struggle. Once more, tripartite struggle means the major kingdoms, that means Rashtrakutas, Gurjara Pratiharas, and Palas, involved in a long struggle of supremacy to occupy Kanauj. This struggle is called tripartite struggle. Rulers also tried to demonstrate their power and resources by building large temples. So, when they attacked one another's kingdom, they chose to target temples, which were sometimes extremely rich. One of the best such rulers is the Sultan Muhammad of Ghazni in Afghanistan. Sultan is an Arabic word. The meaning is ruler. He was very ambitious ruler. He had heard that India was extremely rich. He raided the subcontinent almost every year. His targets were wealthy temples. So plundered the Somanatha temple in Gujarat and took away the gold and jewelry. This wealth was used to create a splendid capital city at Ghazni. He also interested in finding out more about the people he conquered. He entrusted a scholar named Al-Biruni to write an account of the subcontinent. This Arabic work, known as the Kitabul Hind, remains an important source for the historians. He consulted Sanskrit scholars to prepare this account. The other kings who engaged in warfare included the Chahamanas, later known as the Chauhans, who ruled over the region around Delhi and Ajmer. They attempt to expand their control to the west and the east, where they were opposed by the Chalukyans of Gujarat and the Gahadapalas of western Uttar Pradesh. The best known Chahamana ruler was Prithviraj III, who defeated an Afghan ruler named Sultan Muhammad Ghori in 1191 but lost him the very next year in 1192. Dear children, let's revise the important points you have studied in this class. Who were Samantas? Samantas were big landlords or warrior chiefs in different regions of Indian subcontinent. Samantas declared themselves to be the title Mahasamanta and Mahamandaleshwara. The meaning is the great lord of a circle or region. Next, what is Hiranyagarbha? The meaning of the word is golden womb. It signifies a golden pot donated to a Brahmana and also refers to the god Vishnu. The donor performs an archana and utters a mantra praising the Lord Hiranyagarbha, that is Vishnu. This ritual was performed with the help of Brahmanas and it was thought to lead to the rebirth of the sacrificer as a Kshatriya, even if he was not born by birth. Next is administration in the kingdoms. Kings adopted high-sounding titles such as Maharajadiraja, Tribhuvana Chakravarti. The meaning is Maharajadiraja means great king or overlord of kings. Tribhuvana Chakravarti means lord of the three worlds. The resources were obtained from producers, that is, peasants, cattle keepers, artisans, etc., who compelled to surrender part of what they produced. Sometimes these were claimed as rent. The revenue collected from traders, resources were used to finance the king's establishment for the construction of temples and forts. They were also used to fight wars. Next, the most frequently mentioned tax is petty, taken not in cash but in the form of a forced labor, and kadamai, that is the land revenue. There were also taxes on thatching the house, the use of a ladder to climb palm trees, a cess on succession to family property, etc. It is depicted on the inscription of the Cholas. Next, Prashastis and land grants. Prashastis contain details that may not be literally true, but they tell us to depict themselves as valiant, victorious warriors. Prashasti is a Sanskrit word. The meaning is in praise of. Prashastis were composed by Brahmins. The important one is the achievements of Nagaphatta. Kings often rewarded Brahmanas by grants of land. These were recorded on copper plates which were given to these who received the land. This is a set of copper plates recording a grant of land made by a ruler in the 9th century. It is written partly Sanskrit and partly Tamil. The ring holding the plates together is secured with the royal seal. Next, warfare for wealth. The tripartite struggle. A number of powerful empires arose in northern India and the Deccan between AD 750 and AD 1000. Out of them, 3 were of the Rashtrakutas, Gurjara Pratiharas and the Palas. These 3 major kingdoms were involved in a long struggle of supremacy to occupy Kannauj. Historians have referred to struggle as the tripartite struggle. Who was Muhammad Ghazni? He was the ruler of Ghazni in Afghanistan. He ruled from 997 to 1030 and extended control over parts of Central Asia. His targets were wealthy temples, including that of Somanath Temple at Gujarat. Much of the wealth Muhammad carried away was used to create a splendid capital city at Ghazni. Other kings who engaged in warfare included the Chahamanas, later known as the Chauhans, who ruled over the regions around Delhi and Ajmer. They attempt to expand their control to the west and the east areas. They were opposed by the Chalukyas of Gujarat and the Gagadawalas of western Uttar Pradesh. The best Chahamanas ruler was Prithviraj III, who defeated an Afghan ruler named Sultan Muhammad Ghori in 1191, but lost to him the very next year in 1192. Children, you should read the chapter 2 and find out the important kingdoms in map first.
You all understood the class. Thank you, children.